What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Mind of Marsal podcast. This is episode number 107. I'm your host, Armando Marsal. You can find all of my work over at fantasyguru.com. Follow me on the Twitter machine at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram threads and TikTok at Mind of Marsal. As usual, before jumping into it, I just want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you all. Remember, if you're enjoying the podcast, if you're enjoying the content, join the show. Please make sure you like, follow, rate, and review the podcast wherever it is you're consuming it. Also, friendly reminder, we do now have this show on YouTube, so make sure you check out Mind of Marsal there on YouTube. The shows are live there too. And if you have any questions, topics, anything you want me to discuss, email that to mindofmarsal@gmail.com, and I'll go ahead and talk about it and discuss it here on the podcast. Well, it's what end of June, look at me, end of July. I was talking to my guest here before the show, and we were talking about how time is flying, and we feel like we're mid-season form already, given all the content we have there at fantasyguru.com. Our draft guide is out there, tons of content. This man is responsible for the dynasty guide, one of the best dynasty guys out there. Guy knows dynasty left and right. He knows football. It's my guy, Russell Clay. How's it going, brother?
Let's go, baby. Mondo, appreciate you having me on. This will be fun.
Dude, I always talk about this, like, and we literally were talking before we got on this podcast for like 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, if we would have just started recording that, we had such great conversation. We were talking cards, talking about the draft guy, talking football. Dude, it's funny because now it's business, but how we record, that's like 15, 20 minutes of great dialogue, great conversation, dude. Um, we were talking about cards before we talk about all the football we're going to talk about today. Let's talk a little bit about cards because I know you like opening pack, ripping packs like I do. I know you also buy on eBay like I do. Talk to me about that little hobby that we both have. Like, have you been active this off season? Have you been buying any players you've been targeting?
Too active. We got to cut back. We got to cut back, brother. But it is a blast, and it really does fit in with what we do as fantasy football people. And it does translate to other sports when you're looking at that. But the funny thing about the hobby is, and we were talking a little bit about this, is everyone has different objectives. Some people are out there to make it a business. Some people are out there to, be able to have a fun hobby that they don't go broke on. And then other people are collecting their, team memorabilia, don't care about prices. And it's a good mix to have instead of like fantasy football is purely about winning unless you're in a dynasty league, and then it's mostly about winning and hitting on your players, but it's a different element but a fun one.
Yeah, it is, right? And like you said, like everyone's in it for different reasons, right? There's investors, there's investments, I like buying purely out of players like I collect, cards of players I like. I may have way too many CD Lamb cards, like you and I have talked about. So I have over 30 CD Lamb rookie cards, a couple graded. But again, I'm a big CD Lamb fan, so I don't mind investing in them. And I think that there's also, there's equity in some of those cards, and I do have some equity in some of those cards. Just like Jamar Chase, like before last season, I invested in multiple Jamar Chase rookie cards, some of them graded as well, PSA 10s, and I went back and checked the value compared to where I purchased it in. There's decent amount of equity in each of those cards. So I'm happy about
Yeah.
that, right? But I'm not looking to now flip those cards. Like I'm okay with just hanging on to them. I'm a fan of Jamar Chase, like CJ Stroud, the same thing. So yeah, I think it's fun. Obviously, ripping packs is fun as well. I don't invest in high end packs. Like, there's cut packs up there upwards of $100 up there. I'm not in the business of that. Look, I go to Target. I go to the local store. They got some baseball cards there, basketball cards, 6.99, 10.99. Rip them with the kids, have some fun. We pulled some fun rookie
Ah.
cards. Look, I pulled some Victor Wembanyama cards like in some of those NBA packs. Like, are they the most valuable ones? No. Are they one of ones? No. But hey, I got a handful of Wemby rookie cards. Why not? Like, why not? So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a fun hobby, and it does correlate very much with what we do here too, right? Like it's just kind of in the same you know industry, I guess. It's all sports, and that's what we're here for. So,
The
you
the
know,
last thing I'll say, we were talking about this also. When you draft a player in fantasy, there's no risk of the player being scratched or having a print line when you draft that player. So that's another difference as well.
there's a you can't see the print like here. You see, I have. By the way, so those of you who are listening to the podcast, you're not going to be able to see this. Those of you who are watching it, you'll see I have this many cards that I got to put away in sleeves and some hardcovers. Some of them hardcovers, most of them sleeves. But the first one was there is the Justin Herbert press proof, the blue one, and right
Yeah.
there, there's a huge line, dude, all across. It's not, worth nothing, but you know it's a cool card. That's the way I see it, and it's a good quarterback one that I like. So, um, well, I'm sure most people didn't come and tune in to hear us talk about just our love for opening packs
We'll
and
we'll
and
force
cards.
them. We'll
Yeah,
force
exactly.
them.
We're forcing them at the beginning. We'll get to the good stuff soon, but we'll force you at the beginning. Um, speaking of it, so I love like that, but I also like you said about if you're a fan and stuff like that. Do you fantasy like you separate your fandom from like the actual players, right? Like that's the way I do it. And I'm only asking that because I do get asked that a lot. Like, do you draft your players? Do you draft your team? I'm like, no, I view fantasy from an objective lens. I assume you do too, right?
I think there's room for fun in fantasy as well. And understanding that when your biases are doing well, it's awesome. And when they're not, whether it's your favorite team or your favorite players, it's really bad. And Mondo, I would say I am a little towards my guys. So when I have Todd Gurley and he gets Sean McVay, I'm winning every league and I'm the man, right? And it's so funny how life works because I had Todd Gurley and I had Melvin Gordon and I had some unbelievable years. And let's be honest, the ego balloon got huge. And then I went all in on Dwayne Haskins and N'Keal Harry, and let me tell you, that ego balloon dwindled down. And now we've kind of caught our footing the last couple of years and hit on players. But in a season long league, there's more strategy of like hedging and spreading out exposure and all this. In Dynasty, sometimes I just tank and it goes horribly. But the highs are highs and the low are low with that stuff. But that's just the way I've kind of always played it. I'm not saying that's the right way. Spreading things out is probably best, but I think you can have your guys here and there.
Well, I agree with it. I think in Dynasty that's kind of where I gravitate towards taking your guys, right? Because you're basically committing to a player for a lengthy amount of time, right? So it's not like a redraft where this is your team for this year and then next year you're doing it all over again and things like that. Like in keeper formats and Dynasty leagues where you're gonna be able to hang on to players, in keepers, it's a specific number of players. In Dynasty, it's the entire roster. I'm more inclined to let that part of it where that player I really like, you know. Look, I may have Paris Campbell in every single one of my dynasty
That
rosters. I
was
mean, if we're
that was a
being
good one
honest,
too.
like look, for instance, like Trevor Lawrence, I know some of you and I both like a lot. Like, is Liam Cohen the guy that's going to be able to really get what we expected from him? Like, if you've been hanging on to him this long, like you're probably hanging on to him because of two reasons. Number one, you really believe in the talent, you believe in the quarterback, you believe in the prospect that he was when he was coming out of college, and you believe him in everything. And number two, you're probably not getting what you expect or what you hope to get from him in return. So you've kept him. Those are probably the two reasons. But if you are one of those that you still believe, you look at this and you're like, okay, well, maybe this is the year where the coaching can help him. And so far, there's been a lot of positive reports regarding Lawrence and what how he's looking right now, and I know it's early. It's June, like I said earlier. But again, these are little reports that you pay attention to. So yeah, I agree. I think it depending on the format, I think it's a good way to look at it. Like, if it's something where you're invested in for a long period of time, why not? Like, why not get the guy you like? Why not be all in on Jalen Wright? Like, why not? Like at this stage where you could get a pennies on the dollar, ladies and gentlemen. That's just good.
That's the best one,
Yeah,
Mondo. The cheaper you go all in on the cheaper guy. If it misses, it's kind of whatever. But
correct.
if it hits, like a running back in Mike McDaniel's system, then you're awesome. Like you're set across the leagues,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly. You right now you're getting him for what, third rounder, maybe even
Yeah.
cheaper, like maybe even cheaper in some leagues. Why not? Like, but you don't got anything to lose there. So all right, let's talk about what we came to talk about here today, Russ. Like, you see, we can go on. Like, this is what happens before we record. We start talking, and then it's and if I tell Russell I had this for breakfast, it's kind of like it goes from breakfast to popcorn to like this. It's just and then we end up
Yeah.
in cards. So
Yeah.
that is the kind of conversation you and I can have, which is awesome, dude. But you and I are going to talk two quarterback. We're going to talk super flex leagues, and then we're also going to look into like some late round quarterbacks that we can maybe target in single quarterback leagues. So maybe basically a lot of quarterback speak today. That's what we're here to talk about. And we'll start off with the two quarterback and super flex leagues. They're two different formats, though. I view them as similar, if not identical, as far as how you approach it for very little details that are a little bit different, and we'll discuss those. But Russ, our dynasty league, the one that you set up for the Fantasy Guru subscribers and some of the staff members, that was a super flex. It is a best ball, so it's a little bit different, but that's a super flex league. Let's talk a little bit about the differences between super flex and two quarterback league. Do you want to dive into that?
Sure. So the the main thing is the scoring settings for Superflex. If it's six per passing touchdown or there's anything amped up about quarterback scoring, you need to have two guys every week. Uh, and in other leagues, there is other scoring that boosts up running back and wide receiver and tight end. Then you can kind of take your shots here and there and not necessarily have two stud quarterbacks like we used to do when quarterbacks ruled the day. Um, Especially now though with the running game and how much quarterbacks run, there's some pretty bad quarterbacks that are pretty good for fantasy. And there's also some good quarterbacks, and we'll probably talk about Mahomes today, where I just don't know what the heck to do with him at this point. So, um, I think it's evolving, Mondo, and the game is evolving, and these systems are so great now. You mentioned Liam Cohen with Trevor. This is another thing I've humbled myself with. It's like, when you evaluate prospects, you got to realize these guys can't do it on their own anymore, like maybe Peyton did back in the day or Brady. Like, none of these guys can do this. We saw Caleb last year. He was a disaster. So, that's where I'm at. If you can find a Brock Purdy or a Dak in the late rounds or something like that, you're cooking.
Yeah, I agree. So when you look at the two leagues, right? Like, I think scoring is very important. That's number one. Like, you always should know your roster and scoring settings for every single league that you do, whether it's two quarterback, single quarterback, like tight end premium. That's so important. I've gotten into drafts. When I first started playing fantasy, I went into some drafts assuming like all leagues were created equal, and they were not. I found that out the hard way. But yeah, I think the biggest difference between two quarterback and super flex leagues in two quarterback formats, you have to start two quarterbacks, whereas in super flex, you don't need to start two quarterbacks. We always recommend, and we get asked this a lot, right? In Discord, and it's funny because like, do I want to play, you know? Joe Flacco? No, but do I want to play Joe Flacco over your wide receiver four in a super flex league? Maybe, yeah. Like I feel like that's the answer we give a lot. Um, and that's ultimately, the case because like you mentioned, if it's a 6 point for passing touchdown, like all Joe Flacco needs to do is throw a couple of touchdowns, even if he throws one interceptions, the 200 yards. And I'm just saying Joe Flacco is just someone most people don't want to be starting, right? Like, and you do that, and you're already getting more fantasy points than your wide receiver four, or wide receiver, even wide receiver three to a certain extent, right? So like that's the reason why you always want to start that second quarterback because of the point scoring. Um, but it does change the approach significantly for me. Like for me, in a two quarterback league, you're almost handcuffed to be draft to draft a quarterback like super early. Whereas in a super flex league, I think you could get away with not taking a quarterback in one of the first two rounds and still coming out with a pair of solid quarterbacks, and not worry too much about that second quarterback because at the end of the day, you don't necessarily, and I'm doing air quotes here, need to start him. It's a choice. But in a two quarterback league, you're forced to start two quarterbacks. So you don't want to be left with a second volatile low floor option each and every week where you don't even know if he's going to be the starting quarterback the entire season. Like that's the thing, like right, like you don't want that. And then I also look at two quarterback leagues, and Ray and I had this conversation. Ray Flowers, everyone, and you like, would you want to be in a 14 team two quarterback league? I don't think I want to. I don't. When you start doing the math, like there's 32 teams. I recommend three quarterbacks for any, team in a two quarterback league. Three times 14 is how many? I mean, start doing the math. You're looking at 42. So there's going to be 10 teams with not a third quarterback, and you need to start two. Like, think about it. So I think size of these two quarterback leagues is very important before you join them. Because remember, like, and then you also have to think, do you put limitations, Russ? Like, do you put limitations how many quarterback someone could roster? Like when we first started doing our Superflex league, it was a 10-team league, and there was one team carrying six quarterbacks. Like I was there was people on bye weeks that they didn't even have a quarterback. Like the injuries occurred, they didn't have a quarterback. So this guy was like, well, you want it was Byron Leftwich at the time, right? You want Byron Leftwich for like the best running back in the league. It's like,
Gross.
I'll give you a trade, buddy, but you gotta give me your best running back because I got all the quarterbacks. So it creates issues, I think, right? Like when you with some of these leagues. And how do you feel about that? Like when you're doing a just we'll talk two quarterback league only. Like when you're doing a two quarterback league, like
Ugh.
is there a specific amount of teams where you say, okay, that's where I draw the line?
Okay, so number one, I wanna pull back a second and say we have a unique experience because on Sunday mornings, when it's rubber meets the road and we're in the chat, or you're doing your Sunday show, or you're doing your DFS stuff, or Tyler's whatever, or Rich is grinding, there are scenarios where it's going to be like, do I start Spencer Rattler? He might play a half. And it's like, I don't know. Like he could throw a pick on his second pass and get benched for Tyler Suggs. So, do we want that in fantasy football? During bye weeks is probably inevitable, but that is a thing we see on a weekly basis in these two quarterback leagues and super flex leagues where I would want to get that out of the game if we could. I don't think that's really, I mean, we all love grinding and deep leagues and all that, but I mean, sweating out a half of Spencer Rattler or, Tua's didn't get he got hit last week, but it didn't count as a concussion. Zach Wilson's ready to start it. It's like, I don't know. So in a best ball, right? That takes care of itself. We're not dealing with the start sit aspect, but if you're talking 14 teamer, two QB league, that's 28 starters every week with almost no room for error. You'd have to put restrictions like most you can own is three, but even three would probably crush two or three teams by week 5 or 6. So it's fun, but I just think super flex is so much easier because then you can always throw a Tony Pollard in that super flex spot. So I just think that's the easiest way to go. But yeah, 14 team, 2 QB league, you're just asking for pain, and some people want pain.
I'm not in fantasy for paid, so I'm out. I would say I would respectfully decline an invitation to such league. Um, I think a solution to the problem could be team quarterbacks. Like if you're in this kind of league, I think that that really could help, right? Because if an injury occurs, you still got the team quarterback. You're not, again, we're going to talk about Mahomes. We're going to talk about Josh Allen. We're going to talk about all these quarterbacks here today, but you're not going to get the same production from the backup but at least you secure, you're in a position where you're not going to get 0 points. So I think that's a way to go about it with these two quarterback leagues. But I'm 100% with you, dude. Like I personally think that it's very simple. Like if you want the best of both worlds, where you're in a two quarterback league, because at the end of the day, Superflex, no matter what people say, the Superflex play out just like a two quarterback league. 90 to 100% of the rosters each and every week are starting two quarterbacks. And you see it all. Like it doesn't even matter who it is. Like it could be a backup quarterback, right? Who you're like Joshua Dobbs was starting in super flex leagues, all right, like a couple of years ago. Okay. Like when he had his little run with the Vikings, he started for a couple of super flex leagues there. So you do see those kind of plays, and Jacoby Brissett, like those people, those kind of quarterbacks, they're not starters, but they will find themselves in these starting lineups, especially when there's bye weeks, when there's injuries, like when there's 6 teams on bye and 3 quarterbacks are out with injuries, you're talking about 9 quarterbacks off the board on any given week.
Yeah,
Listen,
dude.
Jacoby Brissett's looking like Troy Aikman out there, all right? You're like, all right, let's do this, baby. Yeah, it's happening. Like straight up.
We're clipping that. We're clipping that.
If anyone just tunes into that, they'd never tune back in. They'd be like, "Fuck that! This guy just said that Troy Aikman and Jacoby Brissett are the same quarterback." So yeah, but I'm all about two quarterback leagues, man. I mean, super flex leagues. I've been my home league has been doing it now, Russ, for over 10 years, and it's been fun. Like again, we've gone through hiccups, we've gone through learning curves and stuff like that. And as the commissioner, like I had to establish boundaries. I had to make sure that create a limit, and things like that. But yeah, I think it's a very fun league, and it really gives you flexibility, right? When you do the super flex, it gives you flexibility because you can really go with any approach. Like you can go with any approach with your draft because think about it. The first 4 teams take a quarterback. You're sitting at pick 5. You're like, well, I didn't expect I was going to have Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, like all of these options here at hand. And this not only happens in the first round, this like extends all the way to the second, third, fourth. Like players drop more than you expect them to drop in these kind of formats. And we'll talk about that here soon. But it just gives you so much flexibility, Russell. I love the idea of, I'm all for changing your leagues. If you want to do two quarterback style, I would always recommend Superflex. It's actually my favorite format. I'm a big Superflex PPR guy, where you keep it simple. You do your Superflex, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 1 regular flex, and in my league we have an IDP flex. I don't do kickers, don't do defenses. Just I prefer an IDP flex where you could put any IDP position. And then, kind of what I'm trying to do there is expand it to essentially have a couple of IDP spots and maybe make it an IDP league. But that's how we've expanded my league there. What are your thoughts on that? Like when you do super flex, how do you like your roster settings to look? Are you the same, like kind of two running backs, 3 receivers? Do you leave that extra flex or do you remove that flex and just leave it at like a super flex spot?
I like having one QB, one super flex, one running back, one wide receiver, one tight end, and then a bunch of flexes, and you can decide how many you want. I think that gives more flexibility to owners. And as we talked about, it really is a bye week thing where it's such a mess during the year that being able to kind of pick your spots with positions, I like to give the flexibility. I will say, if I see IDP, you know that meme where the guy does the peace sign and he disappears? I've never known enough about IDP to play. It does look fun. Shout out to Phil Backert and shout out to all the people who do play IDP. But I will give you guys some cred. That's an extra level. Like I see Tyler doing tackle props mid-season. I'm like, thank God you guys are into that because I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah, it's definitely more on the plate. But mine is simple. Mine is just a very this is like the second or third year we've kind of transitioned to this because it's been slowly like, you know, kind of doing changing things along the way in recent years as the NFL evolves. I removed the kicker, and then everyone wanted to keep defenses around, so I kind of suggested instead of a defense, just one IDP player. So I think we're at two IDP players now, but that's it. Like it's a flex too. It's not a specific position. It's just
Mm.
whatever defensive player you want to throw in there, throw in there. Um, but yeah, it does get complicated. It does get complicated when you start doing defensive tackles, defensive ends, safeties, cornerbacks. I'm in a league like that, and needless to say, it is challenging. It is time consuming. Um, so talking about Superflex, the two quarterback leagues, Russ, the big question is always when do we take the quarterback? Do I take one with the first pick? Do I take one with the second pick? And for me, I always like if you have the first pick, that's entirely up to you. If you want to take one of the top tier quarterbacks, I'm not against it. I'm not against you taking Jamar Chase either, like in that format. I'm okay with going either way. You have to know your league though. Like this is what I tell everyone. You have to know your league and your dynamics and the players you're drafting with. If, for instance, in my Superflex league, it's evolved to the point now where most people are taking their first quarterback in that second, third round. Sometimes you'll see one quarterback come off the board in round one, right? But I've been in industry leagues and I've been in leagues where six, seven quarterbacks come off the board in the first 10 picks. Like it happens. You play best ball right now and you try to do a super flex best ball league, you're seeing a ton, I mean a ton of quarterbacks come off the board in the first, second round. I mean, I'm looking at ADP right now, right? And when you look at Superflex for perspective, Superflex ADP right here, in the first round, I'm seeing six quarterbacks come off the board. All right.
Yeah.
And you're talking about Mahomes is kind of being in that fringe, back end of the first, front end of the second. I've seen it where it's even far worse, where you see seven, eight quarterbacks come off the board in the first round. When do you think, Russ, is the time to take that quarterback? Like, when do you feel comfortable taking your first quarterback?
It's hard. So I would say it depends on the landscape. It depends on the quality of the quarterback player pool, which is not always the same. We went through some really, really lean years post Brady, Breeze, Manning, Eli Rivers. We lost Matt Ryan. We lost all of them. And we have now rebuilt, and we are entering a new golden age of we have a bunch of middle-aged quarterbacks that are ready to dominate, or have dominated already. I mean, Lamar, Hurts, Allen, Mahomes, even Stroud, Burrow, Herbert. Like these guys are all established. We know they're going to be at least all right. And then we have this new crew coming up, Daniels, Caleb May, Bo Nix. Uh, we have the guys like Love, Lawrence, Bryce Young is one toss up, Michael Penix, like JJ McCarthy, Brock Purdy, like all these guys are super young. And I think this type of year sets up waiting. But years past, if you took Hertz and Allen or Hertz, Hertz Lamar or any combination like that, Hertz Burrow, I mean, if you could get any of that combination, you probably, if you didn't win your league, you were very competitive. This year, I look at it and I say, all right, I don't love JJ McCarthy, but the Vikings did. Do I want to wait and take him with Bryce Young? and add, a Kyler or a Dak later or a Goff who threw for 4,600 yards last year. So this is way different than previous years that we've dealt with. We don't really have a lot of rookies this year. It's Cam Ward, but I'm not messing with him. But Drake May in year two, Caleb year two. These guys aren't like, you know, you know, it's not their first year starting. So I'm super excited about this group as a whole, and we're going to be in for some much better quarterback play this year. With that said, when you're playing against Jalen Hurts and you know he's going to fall into the end zone 2 times a game, it's the worst feeling ever. So if you want to take Jalen Hurts round one or Josh Allen, like I'll be doing that too. So if you want to, it's two different conversations, but I, I love the first round quarterbacks. You can wait this year though. That's what I'll say.
So a couple things that you said, like the kind of like, so I agree. Like I think, look, scoring settings should also dictate that, right? Like if you're in a 6 point per passing for a passing touchdown, like take Josh Allen number one overall. Take Lamar Jackson, Jalen
Right.
Hurts, whoever you have number one overall. It really doesn't matter who you have number one overall. I've talked about this with Tyler before. I know you and I have talked about this. I view them. This is one tier for me. They're all in that same tier. Pick your poison and go with it. Like that's. I'm not gonna. If you say, I'm taking Lamar Jackson as my first quarterback, good. I'm taking Jalen Hurts as my first quarterback, good. I'm taking Josh Allen, good. Like I'm Jaden Daniels, good. Like I would. Joe Burrow is not there for me only because he doesn't have that same rushing upside. But like we saw last year, he doesn't need that rushing upside to be there with these guys. So I have him like right there on the edge. Like what I love about Burrow is you're essentially getting the discount for not the rushing upside. You're getting the same kind of seating. So that's why I'm always, kind of like, kind of gravitate towards him when it comes to this. But it doesn't matter to me which one you go with. I would be happy with taking a quarterback in the first round. However, you said something that to me is so important. It really is how comfortable you are with this younger set of quarterbacks, the Bo Nixes of the world, the Drake Mays of the world, right? The
Right.
J.
If you hate those guys and you think they all stink, then you're not going to want to wait at all, right?
Exactly, exactly. Because when I'm looking at ADP and I'm seeing Drake May going on average around six, all right, I'm seeing CJ Stroud on average going around six. I'm seeing Trevor Lawrence on average going around seven. All right, you're looking at, Justin Fields, who I am very excited about this upcoming season. He's going around three. Like you're looking at Jordan Love round three, Dak Prescott round four, Brock Purdy round four. Like yeah, Bo Nix is going around too. Like you're gonna have to make a pretty early investment if you believe in Nix. I believe in Nix, right? But at that point, I'd rather wait to those round 4 to 7 to take my two quarterbacks, right? And we're gonna talk
Right.
about that too, right? Because if you take one of those early round quarterbacks, you could wait all the way to like round 11, round 13, round 15, where you have Stafford, Tua, Bryce Young, Penix. You have that range of quarterbacks that you can pair up with your elite quarterback if you want to. You could still take another quarterback early. But the point is that if you're clumping up these quarterbacks in those mid rounds, you have to like a lot of these guys. And for me, that's kind of where it's at for me, Russ. Like I'm looking at from round 3 to round 7. And I tell you this, aside from one quarterback here, I'm good with every single one of these guys at, pairing these. And I'll start off. It's Justin Fields, Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Drake May, CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, rounds 3 to 7. I will pair up pretty much any of those. The only one I'm just under the like field on when it comes to what I my expectations are Caleb Williams, and it's just look, he has a lot of tools. He has the supporting cast is, I mean, phenomenal there in Chicago. And we saw him improve a little bit towards the end, just look better. I still need to see him take that step to really start buying into him. And I'm going to be one of those that's by the time I jump on that train or that bandwagon, it might be too late. And that's okay. I'm okay. I live with that. I'm okay with that. But man, if you tell me that I can come out of the first round with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson combination because you're drafting in the kind of the back end or Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors combination, and still get myself two of those quarterbacks, I'm all in. Like why use a first? or second round capital on a quarterback when you can get that. Now, all drafts are not going to play out that way. So I do want to emphasize like you have to adjust quickly. And so all of this information, by the way, can be found over at fantasyguru.com. I wrote an article about this specific format and I dove into all these numbers. Like if you see that your league is not as aggressive, you can chill. Like you can take a seat back and you kind of like let it play out. Don't be the aggressor there. You don't have to be. Now, if you see your league as being very aggressive, you're going to have to adjust. You're probably going to have to take a quarterback a round or two before you anticipated. So maybe instead of round five, you're going round three. Maybe instead of round four, you might have to go round two. Like you might have to adjust, but that has to happen on draft day, Russ. Um, but talk to me about that group of quarterbacks there. Like, I'm assuming you're optimistic like I am about these young guys. Like, I think that there's a lot of these that can, take that next step or, even continue to progress in their career. Um, Talk to me about that group right there.
The 2024 QB class, they have to hit. They have to hit. And this is different than some previous classes because they had the prospect profiles, they have the draft capital, and a lot of them, and Mondo, I'm huge on Trevor Lawrence, but the big difference between him and these other guys is they got drafted into good systems. Bo Nix went to Sean Payton right away. Like Drake May has Mike Vrabel now and like a stable, steady like organization to go into year two with. Caleb has Ben Johnson now. So this is way, way different than previous classes. JJ McCarthy has a Vikings team that made Sam Darnold look like an all pro last year. Michael Penix has Drake London and Bijan to lean on. I mean, Mondo, Trevor Lawrence was throwing to Tavon Austin in year one. Like, and not young Tavon Austin, old Tavon Austin.
Well, look, McCarthy has Kevin O'Connell, and what he's been able to do there, like with quarterbacks, like
Amazing.
you go back, like even Kirk Cousins, like right, like Kirk Cousins played his best football there, right? And then you go and you take Sam Darnold, and I mean, there's only so much a coach can do to prevent his player from seeing ghosts, right? But
Like in the playoffs. Yeah, it's a little harder.
exactly, the ghost came out of the playoffs. But the point is, I mean, Jaden Daniels had what Cliff Kingsbury, like these are good, coaches. These are good situations. Jacksonville has not been that. And well, Sam Darnold, look at Baker for instance, Baker, a perfect example. Like he went from like kind of being written off to look at the year he came off of last year. Like sometimes you do need a fresh start in the NFL, right? Sometimes it's just where you land, and unfortunately there's teams that are like that. Like you look at, and I'm sorry you're a Browns fan. Like look at Cleveland, just the way they do things, it just hasn't worked out. So it's but yeah, I agree with you. I think this draft class, or not this draft class, but these quarterbacks from the last several years that have been drafted, I think a lot of these young, talented arms are gonna, maybe come out this year and exceed expectations. And I think you could get some value here in this range. Let's talk a little bit more about this kind of. So we talked about when you should draft them. How many quarterbacks you should draft in this format, Russ? I'm okay with two in a super flex. I 100% recommend three in a two quarterback league. In a super flex league, I think you could get away with drafting two with the
Mm.
understanding that you have to draft deep enough that if you need an emergency plug and play, you could plug in a running back or a receiver that you're comfortable with, number one. And number two, with just being active on the waiver wires, right? Like if there's an injury to a quarterback and you maybe now at that point want to add, the potential starter for that team, or if there's if Jackson Dart is out there on waivers and you're looking at week 6 and you're like, all right, he's not maybe not going to start very soon, but you never know. Like, boom, you add, like that's the only way I draft two quarterbacks in these formats. Ideally, three. And I also think it depends on how much bench spots you have, right? Like how many bench spots you have. Like if you only have a six-man bench, you can't afford to be stashing, specific players for too long. But what's your ideal number of quarterbacks in these formats?
We can be sniffing around, right? We don't have to buy the cars yet. I've been sniffing around Zach Wilson, and I'm saying we're talking about guys in different systems. He's basically going from the worst to the best if he ever starts. So I'm sniffing around that. I'm sniffing around Danny Dimes. I mean, this is what we got to get in the mud in a super flex league in the regular season. So, uh, if we can get 3 to 4 weeks out of some of these backups that become starters, I mean, even a guy like Gino or Bryce Young or, I don't have much expectations for Cam Ward, but I'll kick the tires on that. Rogers, probably not, but yeah, Jackson Dart, you nailed it. That's probably the guy. If there is a late round, like high end QB1 upside guy, it's probably him. But I will say, uh, the Tua, one more concussion, and we might be looking at Zach Wilson, rest of year starter. And I wasn't a Zach Wilson guy coming out. I wasn't a Sam Darnold guy coming out. But you know what? Sam Darnold had 37 touchdowns last year. So um, I don't know. That's kind of how you got to play super flex, in my opinion.
I agree. And these quarterbacks, like, so for those listening, like, we're not taking these quarterbacks with the intention of starting them week one. These are QB3s for us that we're stashing. And I love that, like that vision of like a Zach Wilson, like understanding what you're investing. Just like, Danny Dimes, unfortunately, Richardson is injured now. So all the reports are indicating Daniel Jones is in favor to start, et cetera, et cetera. But that was for me the perfect scenario, like where
Yeah.
everyone's going to be drafting Anthony Richardson. I was going to be taking Daniel Jones with the last pick of my super flex league. And by week 4 or 5, I got myself a potential QB2 each and every week,
Yeah.
right? And then I'm going to be paying for the.
Mondo, if it wasn't the injury, it was going to be a half where Richardson completes 2 of 10, 2 of 12 passes, and Jones just comes out at halftime, right?
Correct. Yeah, it was inevitable. Like for me, it was inevitable. And like we talked about Jackson Dart, like that's a little bit of a messier situation because they also have Jameis Winston there. So like,
Yeah.
but I still think that if they're going to make a move, as selfish as I want to be and want to see Jameis Winston there, I think when the Giants make that move, it'll probably be the Jackson Dart, right? Like I think the only time we'll see Winston is if Russell Wilson were to miss any time due to an injury before they think Dart is ready, and maybe that's when you see Winston. And then that's the week that you just stack the Giants in DFS and you just collect the money. That's it. Like that's what you do. But unfortunately, you just probably won't be able to use Winston all that much, barring, of course, any unforeseen injury there. But I like that. Cam Ward, those guys, yeah, like you said, I don't want to. I prefer taking the upside swing on the Zach Wilson, on the Jackson Darts, like on those kind of players. I even like JJ McCarthy is being drafted somewhat of a QB3 in these formats. I love that. Like for me, like I love the idea of taking a swing on someone like him because if we know the supporting cast is there. We know the coach has been just the success rate there with the quarterbacks
Yeah.
has been phenomenal. Like, I'm in, man. Like, I'm okay with that. But ideally, I think three quarterbacks is the way to go in these formats, right? And it also depends on the pairing and the grouping that you have. Like, did you take an elite quarterback and then did you secure a second stud quarterback or a very good? Like, if you have two stud quarterbacks, you don't necessarily need a third, right? Like, you don't need to protect. Speaking of protection, do you handcuff quarterbacks? I do not. Even in this format, I do not. I'm going to be invested in one or the other. If I believe in Russell Wilson, I invest in Russell Wilson. If not, I'm investing in the Jackson Dart, who I think eventually will see time there. I'm not investing in Tua, but I like the idea of what you said. Some Zach Wilson in my life, like those are the kind of little things that I do. Do you handcuff quarterbacks?
In season long, I would almost never handcuff a quarterback. In Dynasty, I think it's the cheapest high upside play there is in the entire format. A Zach Wilson costs nothing right now, and he would instantly. We were just talking about the pain people are in. If you lose Tua and you gain, uh, you know, if you gain a Zach Wilson, or if you have Dimes and Richardson in a dynasty right now, you're fine. You're fine. You're just fine. The Rattler Shug thing is gross all around, and but if you have it in dynasty, it's fine. In redraft, there's not much use there. You know what I'm saying? So, and most of these guys don't have great backups. Like you mentioned, Russ Wilson, he has Jameis and Dart. Like, if whoever gets replaced there, I'll be interested in. And then there's a lot of unserious guys for this season, like Jalen Milrow in Seattle, where that would never happen, but it would be fun if it did. So,
Well, you got
yeah,
Sam Darnold. Is Sam Darnold going to see the 12th man consistently
well,
on the field? Like, is there going to be that
hey,
12th man on the
I'm
field?
in. I'm in. But there's like if Stafford gets hurt, am I gonna want his backup? Probably not. Like if Lawrence gets hurt, yeah, or like Goff, Hendon Hooker, like am I gonna do that thing? Probably not. So there's a lot of these guys where it's just gonna get ugly for those offenses if they get hurt. But there's some fun guys.
Yeah, I agree with that right there. And I also think like what something that's important, like understanding the quarterback you're investing in. Like for instance, let's just assume Anthony Richardson does get healthy before the start of the season. He earns the starting job. If you are counting on him, right, as your QB, understand that there's a good chance that by week 3 he's not the starter anymore. Like the Cleveland Brown situation, where is a complete that's a shit show, to be honest with you. Like you don't know. That's good for me. Like that's probably the least appealing quarterback situation that I'm gonna like. I will start Aaron Rodgers over whoever starting in Cleveland. Like I think so. Like I feel much more comfortable with that. That would be my 32nd option. And I think I would be investing in Jackson Dart, Zach Wilson before I start investing in and navigating through those Cleveland Brown quarterback waters. I don't know if I wanted those seas are a little bit too rough for me. So I'm staying away.
Yeah.
So I do think that that's very important. One last thing when it comes to this, and then we'll dive into some of the quarterback pairings and quarterbacks we're really truly targeting here. Um, how much emphasis do you place on bye weeks in this format when it comes to just the quarterback position? Do you do it where you try your best not to have two quarterbacks in the same bye week if you're drafting three? Do you not care in Superflex? Like how much emphasis do you place on the bye weeks?
I had someone very early in my fantasy career. I was in a league with a guy, and he was in the group chat or the league chat on my fantasy league that nobody ever uses anymore. It's like an old archaic thing. But he had like 8 guys on bye one week, and he was starting like nothing. And he's like, you know what? I'd rather just get it all over with one week. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but it did get me to think about it a different way of like, all right, if I can get two elite quarterbacks, is one bad week going to sink me? Absolutely not. So I wouldn't let that stop you like it stops so many from taking a guy they like. That's what I would say. Not that it doesn't matter. Of course, when you get to that week, you're like, oh, well, I lost by 100 this week. That sucks. We don't want that. But if you have to sacrifice that week to get to, maybe take a shot at getting two good quarterbacks, uh, I'm not going to let it stop me.
And I think that's a good point, right? Like, because it's only about 1 week here. Like, and it depends. Like, if you get all your players in 1 week, did you just understand? Like that week, I'm gonna lose. That week, I'm not going to win. I need a miracle, and that's the only way I get a W. But then, what kind of league are you in? Are you in a points league where that like, I think that might be a little bit more difficult because a whole week without really scoring a ton of points, like from that team it could be difficult. But are you in a head to head, like where if you lose 1 week, it's just one loss, it's not a big deal. So I think that the kind of league you're in is very important too, right? Because you don't want to, when you're shooting for most points at the end of the season, like one week with very little scoring
Oh,
can be
yeah.
like season ending, really. Like it really can. Like I've seen it like with my best balls and stuff like that, where like I've made that mistake, and it's like
Toot, 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 toot.
one bad week like that sinks that roster, and it's very difficult to come out because you know if you have seven guys, and out of the seven guys, six are pretty solid guys out that week, like it's going to be tough to get out of that hole. Right? Like I really do think so. So I think that's important too, right? If you're making that decision, like if you're in a head-to-head, fuck it, I'll lose one week. Why not? Other than that, though, no, I don't place much. Like I would place more emphasis on it. Um, anything else here in two quarterback or super flex leagues that you think we haven't discussed here today? Um, anything else? No, I didn't think so either. All right, let's talk about some of the quarterbacks we're targeting in this format in these two quarterback super flex leagues. Look, obviously, Russ, I think it's pretty clear. Like, I'll take any of the top five quarterbacks, like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, all in the first round. Like, I where it gets tricky, in my opinion, is if there's a run, do you take Patrick Mahomes? Let's talk. I think we could talk about Patrick Mahomes today. Well, do you take a Patrick Mahomes? Do you take Baker Mayfield? Do you take Kyler Murray, Bo Nix? Those are the next guys that are coming off the board. Like, do you take these players in that first or even second round of these super flex leagues? Or at that point, do you say abandon ship and let's go in a different direction? Because I think that's the most challenging part of these drafts is when that drop off happens at the QB position. What do fantasy managers do? I think there's always a lot of panic. And it's like, I don't, the FOMO of I don't want to miss out on this guy, or I don't want to miss out on the good quarterback. So it's like it creates an effect like that everyone just fucking starts taking quarterbacks. It's like, why on earth are we taking Jared Goff in round one over Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors, Justin Jefferson, Bijan Robins, Saquon Barkley? What the fuck are we thinking? Like, like, do you draw a line somewhere?
Sort of. Sort of. Because when that train gets rolling and you get left off, it is you lose. I mean, you can figure it out with the Spencer Rattlers of the world, and I keep bringing him up, but it's not fun. It's not going to be a fun year. You're going to be grinding all year, and I'm a set and forget guy if I can get it. Uh, I gotta say, Mahomes and Justin Herbert are two guys I love, and I can't click that button this year. We've seen Justin Fields run for 1,100 yards in a season. Bo Nix, as we've talked about with that good system. Baker versus Mahomes. If you want to take Baker above Mahomes, I'm fine. So I like Mahomes. It's just he's right next to Jalen Hurts, bro, who's gonna fall into the end zone 13 times this year. That's you gotta be crushing it as a passer to keep up with these guys now. So I've waved the white flag. I was a pocket quarterback guy. It's over. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. It's done. I mean, it's done. So gotta have some running to be that QB1, it seems, in fantasy. You mentioned Burrow. Dude has huge ceiling. But even last year, he had what, 4,900 passing yards, and he still couldn't catch Lamar and Allen. So, um, yeah, I'm kind of fading that second tier and then picking up with some of the young guys like May, who I think is going to run a lot, and Caleb with Ben and guys like that that aren't as much of an investment.
So just to add to with Joe Burrow, like he also had two, and it's not a lot, but he had 201 rushing yards and two rushing touchdowns. Like Joe Burrow has had at least two rushing touchdowns in all but one season of his career. Like he has
Mm,
that little sneaky, like
a
he's not
little,
going to run for 500, 600 yards. All right. Like it's not going to
right.
happen, but he has 3.2502 every single year rushing touchdowns. Like
Mm.
those are the numbers. And he's gone over 200 rushing yards twice in his career. Like, okay. So I think that's what sets him apart. Like you mentioned, look, he had 43 passing touchdowns. Like His season last year was remarkable.
Unbelievable.
Like almost 5K passing yards, a 71 completion percentage despite throwing 652 times, fucking 43 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions only. No, I'm telling you, dude, like we can't invest in the rookie cards right now, Russ. They're too expensive, but we need some of those in our lives, buddy. We need to rip a pack with one of those. Um, uh, okay, so talking about Patrick Mahomes, I do want to talk about him. Like, I think you have to come into terms with who he is now. He's not the Mahomes that was going to give you 30, 40 plus fantasy points a handful of times a year, right? With Mahomes, I think it's more of a floor play, right? I think you're getting yourself a floor. He averaged over 20 fast, just shy of 20 of over, I'm sorry, just over 20 fantasy points per game last season at 20.71. Um, he just doesn't have that ceiling. He doesn't give you that ceiling. It's not that he doesn't have it. He's not giving you that ceiling he once did. So when it comes to Mahomes, I think you, as a manager of your fantasy teams, you have to come to terms with he's not that ceiling guy anymore. But I want that 20-point floor, and I think that when you look at the offenses here, you get Rice back, like they have this pretty solid supporting cast. I know Kelsey's pass. It's still a good offense, and we go back to coaching. Andy Reid, one of the best in the business. Like that's just what it is. Like this is a great pairing. So he's probably the one that I'm still okay with taking in that second round. Like if I'm looking for a quarterback, I'm not like aggressively targeting him. I'm not going out of my way to target, but I don't mind a Patrick Mahomes. Mayfield is the one I'm very hesitant because there's a lot of changes there for him,
Mm.
right? There's a lot of changes there for him. So I am a little bit hesitant there. I do think he, could definitely have a good season again. There's obviously a great supporting cast there in Tampa Bay. Um, but he's probably the one because I feel like now we're paying premium price. Like we're paying a peak price for him, like seating price, and it's just why am I going to do that when I can get Drake May later? Like that's kind of where I'm at. But other than that, like I think I'm waiting to round 4 or 5. Like I am big on waiting into those rounds because again, to name the quarterbacks like the one, and I wrote all of this by the way. This is all in the article, guys, so you could definitely check that out. But like I feel like Drake May, CJ Stroud is one I'm very big on this year because I feel like you're getting a floor price on him. He has shown us his ceiling, right? He has shown us his potential. It's pretty high. You look at, the supporting cast here. Like last year, he lost Diggs, he lost Tank Dell, Joe Mixon missed some time. Offensive line was beat up. Like there was a lot of moving parts last year for CJ Stroud. And I also think he was being drafted at, a premium price. You're now getting him at a discounted price. They added some weapons there to beef up, like, Christian Kirk, yeah, whatever. It's not great, but good slot receiver. They added Higgins in the draft. You have Nico Collins, who we've been talking about for years now. They added an additional running back in Nick Chubb, who, running behind Joe Mixon. I mean, digging it like 3, 4 years ago, having a backfield of Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb. I mean, everyone would be pretty excited. So I just think like when you're looking at his price, I think it's a great price to buy back in on CJ Stroud if you believe in. Kind of what we talked about with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, another one I'm willing to invest in. So I do though like the idea if you don't take one of those top 5, 6 quarterback Russ, pairing two of these up. So like using two of your fourth through sixth round picks on quarterbacks. I love the idea of doing that. Like going wide receiver, running back, quarterback, or wide receiver, running back, quarterback, receiver, quarterback. Like I love that idea and getting yourself two of those quarterbacks that are between 12 and 17 on your board. And that's what I always say. Leave your drafts with at least one quarterback that's inside your top 12. That's how I would tell everyone to do. If Justin Fields is inside your top 12, take him as your QB1 at kind of his ADP, which is round 3, 4, depending on, the league you're in. What are your thoughts about that?
Okay. So, my new thing as of the last year and a half is the Kansas City Chiefs offense is basically the Harlem Globetrotters at this point, where they they fuck around for 3.5 quarters
Exactly what it
and
is.
try to win in the fourth, and they don't really care about putting up big points anymore. They just kind of mess with people. I mean, they went 15-1 last year, and Mahomes. So is it that he's not good anymore, or they just don't care about the regular season, Mondo? And I know you do our NBA stuff. I feel like there's a ton of that in the NBA, right? Where they don't mail in every game, but I'm guessing like Anthony Edwards doesn't always have a great game every game, and sometimes it's a back to back and he plays 20 minutes or I don't know. And I watch these, I'm like, who's gonna try in the regular season? Like Lamar and Allen, or even a Jared Goff, like do the Lions care about scoring 50 points like they did last year? Had a crushing playoff loss that made all those regular season points mean nothing. Like some of these guys, when they're going for Super Bowls, it kind of changes the regular season. So I'll be curious how Allen, Jackson, Hurts coming off a Super Bowl win. Do the Eagles maybe take it easy? Does Will Shipley get out there a little bit more? That's not quarterbacks, but I, this is new for me. I feel like it's been in basketball for a while, but I'm seeing it and I'm watching these games. I'm like, Peyton Manning would have never done this shit,
Mm-mm.
dude. Never.
Tom
Drew
Brady?
Brees, Drew Brees scored every point that arm could possibly score every week. Uh I just it's different now, and the season's longer. So that's another factor for me. So yeah, I'm with you on a lot of this stuff. And with Baker, same thing with Baker. Like he put up huge numbers last year. What is that? Are they gonna try to go for that, or are they gonna try to run more this year? So
Yeah, with the changes at coaching changes too, like that's important. Like he loses his coordinator. Like I'm a little bit concerned about that to a certain extent. But yeah, like you said, like so this is what I think the Chiefs kind of coasted through last season. But the question now is like after the Super Bowl, like, are you really gonna coast again? Like, or do you want to come out and make a statement? Because
yeah,
like you never know, right? Can they coast in the AFC? I don't know.
probably not anymore, right?
I don't think so, right? Like you look at Buffalo, they continue to get better. I think I was going to say Lamar Jackson, but I think the Baltimore Ravens, aka Lamar Jackson, I think they have done just about everything to put that team like in position to win this year. Like, Hopkins is in my opinion, a great football addition. Like they've done a lot of those little things. They added Jair Alexander. Like, dude, like this team is they're in a position to win this year, and I think if there's any team in the AFC that's kind of trying to coast it, and they're just not going to be able to get past the Ravens. I think as it is, it's going to be hard to get past the Ravens, but the Chiefs can. I mean, they've done it year in, year out. Like they've shown that they can do it. It's just a matter of are you really gonna go out there and play football this year? Maybe in the regular season, but in those meaningful games, like you're gonna see them come out and play. The problem is how often can you turn it on and off, on and off, on and off? Like you have to be either on or off, I think, right? Especially at that level. So yeah, it is interesting. Kind of an interesting perspective to have when you look at some of these quarterbacks and some of these offenses really there, Russ. Any quarterback, specific quarterback pairings that you're looking at, like if so, for instance, if you take a Josh Allen of the world, one of the top 5, 6 quarterbacks, how urgently are you getting that second one? Do you want to pair him up with a Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, or are you chilling, waiting around for the Matthew Staffords of the world, the Tua Tagovailoas of the world? Is that what you're doing?
Oh, we're going for the Allen May stack, NFC East stack right there. Or you mentioned Stroud. I'd love an Allen Stroud combo. That would be excellent. And you mentioned you can go three quarterbacks. Tua, what's wrong with Tua? I mean, probably not going to get a full year out of him, but might be able to fire away there. So that whole tier, I'm not sold on Penix, but I might be able to take a shot here and there. But yeah, T-Law and Stroud and May are the three I'm looking at.
Yeah, if I go with a top five quarterback, I'm okay with taking my next one in that range too, like that sixth through 10th, 11th round. Like, and in that range, you got May, Stroud, Lawrence, McCarthy, Stafford. Like, I'm okay with pairing up my, high end quarterback. Now, if I do wait and I go for a Justin Fields, I'll probably end up with the same pairing, but I will probably also consider like a, Justin Fields, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, like, some of these guys, and maybe even get three depending on the rest of my roster, like three of these guys. Like that's another play I don't mind in this format. Anything else here when it comes to these quarterbacks that we're targeting?
Not really, no.
All right, we're going to rapid fire here. Now we're going to switch gears and we're going to go to single quarterback league, right? And waiting on quarterback. And we're not going to really discuss this topic too much. You have the option of drafting an early round quarterback or waiting on quarterback. What is your favorite thing to do at the position in a single quarterback league where to me it really doesn't matter if it's 4 point or 6 point for passing touchdowns, like unless you're passing 49, 50 touchdowns like Joe Burrow did last year, the difference in points per game on a weekly basis is not as significant. um so what does Russell like to do? And I know it's going to be very dependent on where you fall in the draft, where who lands you, et cetera, but like in a nutshell, like do you tend to wait at the position a little bit, or are you for taking a quarterback in the first 3 rounds, first 4 rounds, even in a single quarterback league?
I tend to wait, especially this year because I have a an interest, you could say, in this rookie running back class coming in. I want to take as many shots on those guys as I can. So that usually means I'm gonna have to wait. So single quarterback, you can get, Stroud in the ninth, 10th round, 8th round, Lawrence for free. I'll I'll take a shot on Penix. We mentioned that tier already. Would love to get May as my QB1 and stack it with Lawrence and just I'm good for the year there. I'm actually really confident in that duo. And then, my first 6, 7 rounds are all wide receivers, maybe a Brocky Bowers in there and those 2025 running backs. So that's what I'm looking at there. That's the strategy for me this year. Um, Bo Nix is going high, huh?
Yeah, he's
That's
going
high. I'm not saying it's wrong, but that is high.
coming off the board as QB9,
Kind of
man.
kind of
QB9.
thought I would get him later, but looks like that's not gonna happen at all.
No, no, coming off the board as QB9, man. Even in single quarterback leagues, like he's coming off QB9, QB8. Um, So I'm with you. I tend to wait at the position, but again, you don't have to wait like super late. Like if you, one of my most drafted quarterbacks last season was Joe Burrow, and that's because of where he was going. Like, like you were getting him in mid round, and it was for me, it was easy. Like and I'm not saying Justin Fields is Joe Burrow, but Justin Fields is going as QB12, around 15 on average, for 15, 14, 15 on average in these single quarterback leagues. Why not wait around for someone like that? Like I think that he can exceed expectations by a wide margin. You look at everyone being drafted behind them: Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Drake May, CJ Stroud. A lot of these guys I'm comfortable with as my QB1 in a single quarterback league. And I think that that's what matters, right? Are you comfortable with that quarterback? Are you comfortable with that player as your QB1? And if you are, why not? Why not wait? And then by then, you're going to have a very strong foundation. You're going to have good running backs. You're going to have good receivers. You could have invested in an elite tight end, which is one of the more volatile positions in fantasy. Like all you need is a quarterback that gives you a relatively strong floor with some built-in upside. And I think Fields, May, Love, like a lot of these players provide you that. Brock Purdy, like they provide you that. I go
Yeah.
back to years past. You mentioned the Lions. Like Jared Goff has been like a pretty easy click for me in these formats the last, couple of years, right? Because he's just been just consistent and he's been a top 10 quarterback. He's coming off the board usually like outside of the top 15 at his position. So like he's been a super easy click for me. Um, Now with the change of offensive coordinator or whatnot, you kind of start to think, all right, is it going to be the same? Like you kind of now it's like, okay, I understand the reservation now, but there was no reason to be reserved last year. Um, Russ, it was fun. Is there anything you want to add to this? Anything else you want to add before we get going? Before you let everyone know what you got cooking, what you got? And I don't mean literally if you got breakfast on the stove top right now or anything. I just mean what you got cooking content
Mondo.
wise,
Mondo, we could go another 2 hours, brother. But
dude. I
I'm
know.
gonna hold off, and maybe we can have you on Clay's Corner, if I ever start that up again, or maybe we can just have you on. Maybe we can do a TikTok live and talk more about this stuff before the season goes. But this was really fun. Great convo, and I love this shit. So, yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, this is always fun, dude. It's always fun talking to you about football. I say the same thing to Tyler. Like, we just talked for over an hour, and it feels like we've only been talking for like 15 minutes. I feel like we can continue going on for another 2, 3 hours here, just talking football, talking shit, shooting the shit. So yeah, this is not. First of all, this is not the first time you come on. It's not the last time you come on. Like you're a consistent guest on the podcast, and you're going to continue to hop on. We'll definitely have you on many more times between now and the start of the season. In fact, I was actually suggesting. I was looking now while we were ending this here. So I don't have many ratings. Right? Like I only have like 17 ratings. Like that means like people that give me like a 5 star, 4 star, 3 star, 2 star, whatever you want to give me. I don't care. Just go in there and do it. If I get to let me see. How many did let's do 15 more. So 15 plus 17. So we'll do math on there here. 32. If I get to 32, right? You and me are gonna open some packs. And we're not gonna do it on the podcast. We'll just do it on YouTube. We'll open a few packs and we'll have some fun. And you know what?
Flip this.
If you yes, exactly. Clip this. You write a review. Email me that you wrote a review. And then you know what? We might ship you some cards of your favorite team. We've done this before, you and I. Remember,
A
we've
little
done this. I did this.
giveaway. A
I
little
I
givey
did this on
givey.
Discord, didn't I? I did this on Discord. I gave away a couple Javonte Williams rookie cards when I missed on him. I think it was early on in the season before last or whatnot. So yeah, just make sure if you guys are into cards over there, that's all you gotta do. Go rate, go review it, and you're good. You'll be part of it and part of the show. We'll definitely and email me and let me know you did and I'll keep you in the loop as far as when we do it and whatnot. Russ, we have our NFL draft guide there at fantasyguru.com. I know I said at the beginning of the show, you do the dynasty guide there, part of that. You've done a lot of other content. What do you have coming up? What are you working on? What do you got cooking here that people should be ready to see soon here on the site?
So the Dynasty Guide is up. I mean, truly a lot of our content got done pre-draft. We did what, 50, 40 or 50 rookie profiles. We have the staff's rookie rankings. The Dynasty ratings are of course already up. The last thing is my rookie expectation series where honestly, we basically just did it, which is that you go through position by position, talk about the Utes, talk about the youngsters. We won't be talking much about the 2025 QB class, I can tell you that. But
Nope.
we got some other good rookies, so we'll be doing that. But yeah, hang out in the Discord, and yeah, we'll get a few of these clips on TikTok, especially the card one, and we'll get rolling from there.
Yeah, yeah. If where can they follow you on TikTok? Especially aside from the fantasy football content, all right. We got pretzel reviews. All
We
right, we got some pretzel reviews. All right, so you gotta give my man Russ a follow there. Where can they follow you on TikTok? Let them know, and then as well Twitter and everything else you got going on.
Yeah, Russell J Clay on TikTok. Uh we do dynasty roster reviews, but we also do pretzel reviews. So if you have a pretzel you think tastes good, shout it out and we'll do it. We'll try it out and give it a rating.
I try to go for the 2 for 1. Like send them a pretzel plus your dynasty roster and be
Oh,
like, look,
oh, you're in.
let's
You're
go.
in, buddy.
That's it. That's the golden ticket to Guarantee you a review here by the one and only Russell Clay. Russ, man, I appreciate you coming on. Like I tell you all the time, man, I enjoy talking football with you. Just enjoy talking to you, dude. So we could go on and on and on and on and on. But if we do that, people will give up by the hour and they'll stop listening. So they won't get the good stuff that we have to offer beyond that. So we'll save it for another day, another show. Remember, folks, you can find all of my work over at fantasyguru.com. You can also follow me on the Twitter machine at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Armando Marsal. Again, if you're enjoying the content, enjoying the show, enjoying the podcast, please make sure you follow, rate, and review. Today, we talked all things two quarterback leagues, super flex leagues. We even dove into some late round quarterbacks we're targeting in single quarterback formats. For the great Russell Clay, I am Armando Marsal. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's journey through the mind of Marsal. Until next time.